In today's video, we're going to be talking about the harsh realities of being a filmmaker. Some things that I've experienced, things that I've seen as I've embarked on this journey, and I feel like wishful thinking has led me down a path where I'm like, I don't really want to be here. Harsh reality number one is it's gonna take longer than you think it will take. I thought that if I bought a camera, if I went to film school, if I tick this box, if I tick that box, then tomorrow everything will be grand. I'll be where I want to be. But the harshest reality that I've had to face is it's going to take as long as it takes to get to where I want to get to. And I can be depressed, I can be stressed about it, or I can accept life for what it is and appreciate the moments that I get to pursue my dream and develop my skill and just become better. Any moment on set is great. Each day I feel like I improve as a filmmaker. The way I watch films has changed, the way I write has changed. Our reality number two is when you get the opportunity, you're gonna have to have answers to questions that you don't have answers to, and you're just gonna have to wing it. You're gonna have to come up with some bullshit and just say you're doing it. Because the one thing is, when people hire you, when people give you an opportunity, they're trusting in your knowledge, but a lot of these things they are learned through experience. So by going through it, that's how you learn it. No matter how much you studied, read, prepared, situations just arise where you're like, I have no idea. So being a filmmaker, depending on the role that you want, let's say in my case, a director, you gotta have answers for the actors, you gotta have answers for your crew, you gotta have answers for the general public when they question you, and you always have to be 5 steps ahead, but also you're playing multiple roles than you ever thought about. When you're a cinematographer, you have to have answers for the director, answers for your crew, be open to suggestions, allowing a lot of people to feel creative even though the overall vision is yours. And that is it. One of the fundamental things is when we look at films, a lot of respect is given to the director or to the main actor in the film, the main cast. But film is really a collaborative effort, and that is just the harsh truth about it. You cannot do it all by yourself. Even if you were to film it, do whatever, you need actors, you need somebody to help you. And if you're to do it by yourself, film yourself, be a YouTuber, there's a difference. Film, it really is about coming together and exploring ideas into achieving a vision, and you have the responsibility within your control of the thing that you do. If you do sound, if you do this, you're gonna have to answer those questions when they arise. One thing I've realized is working in film, man, the concept of work-life balance, it doesn't exist. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you, anything entertainment related it takes a lot of time off your plate. It takes a lot of dedication. If you're not on set working, you're editing. If you're not doing anything to get work done, you are likely preparing for the next thing. You're likely writing, you're likely learning, you're likely doing a lot of things where it consumes you and takes over your life. I think one of the main things that has been pushed over the past few years is this concept of having balance in your life, having a good relationship with your family, having good relationship with your friends and stuff like that, and kicking out hustle culture. I feel like with the film business, it doesn't really work that way, because in this industry, your availability is key, and there's constantly the next project, However, you have to set boundaries for yourself and have an understanding of who am I, what am I trying to do, and what am I trying to achieve. but also sometimes you don't really have that control. Sometimes, like last year where there was a strike and there were no job opportunities, and then this year you're trying to maximize on every opportunity you can get. So it's like, how do you balance that out unless you've reached the top probably 5% of the industry where you have some disposable income that you have, and that allows you to not work sometimes. But I think for the majority of people in our industry, work-life balance doesn't exist. And I think when people say you should be passionate about this, is because the passion allows you to go through the tough times. The passion allows you to do things where the progress is not there, but for you the fulfillment and joy comes from the work. And whilst it's glamorous, for me, a very simple truth, I've been working in the film business for the past, I like to say, 6 years now, and one of the main things that I've truly understood is there are people who make money in this game, and there are people who are trying to survive. And if you don't have the love of it, if you're doing it because you've seen, like, Christopher Nolan made $100 million, you've seen Joe Rogan did X amount of dollars, I think those headlines don't really showcase the reality of the industry. This thing, a lot of the time in this game, you're going to feel like shit. Like, you're going to feel like nothing makes sense, when you wake up. When you do anything to try and succeed, it feels like there's a lot that goes wrong, that you don't really understand why it's happening to you. But I think that's part of the growth. I live by the statement, nothing worth having comes easy. But I think sometimes the challenge in this game is not with it. Like, there are things that come with it, the stress that comes with it, the pressure that comes with it. Like, trying to, when people burn locations, when people do stuff like that, where you have to deal with the people side of it. Because I think a lot of us get into this for the art, but some people get into it for the people, because you want to be around those specific creatives. But I think when you're introverted and stuff like that, you're like, man, I feel like shit today, man. I don't want to deal with the politics, but you're constantly having to pitch yourself, you're constantly having to sell yourself. And I think for a creative space, this industry requires a lot of interaction with other people. It requires a lot of networking and stuff like that, which can make you feel icky, because you have to be sociable and you have to do a lot of the work, that you don't want to do, which can make you feel like some type of way. But I'll always say that, that's part of it. It's worth it in the end, I suppose, when you start doing stuff that you really enjoy and love and creating the impact. But I think until then, in the beginning, you are going to feel like an outsider trying to come in. And I think that comes with the territory. People tend to prefer to work with people they know. People tend to not be as open to someone new, because either you are wanting the same role that somebody already has, or they just don't know you. And as creative people, sometimes, that whole secluded thing people do, which sucks because it's all about collaboration. But in the beginning, it's gonna be that. I think wherever you go, it's always a challenge to break into the film industry, because people have already established themselves and a lot of people are holding on to these roles. But I think one thing I've learned that creates opportunity, and it's I don't feel mentality that I just grew up with, that my mom gave me or wherever it came from, is you gotta create your own opportunities. You have to do it yourself. You will meet people along the way just like you, who are outsiders trying to get in, and that's how you create your community. And eventually, on the pathway to wherever you're trying to get to, people will ultimately open the door for you. And even if it's shut down, you have your own community and you guys can do something. Every time I watch movies, you tend to see directors working with the same people. And I think that is the main thing, is in the beginning, it's very difficult to break in. So you end up just creating your own group and doing your own thing. And yeah, it is what it is at the end of the day. One more thing I'll add is this thing is expensive. Film is quite an expensive industry. You know, everything you try to do, it costs money. Talent costs money. Learning costs money. Equipment costs money. Anything you can think about costs money. Writing costs money. So, and the sad part about it is the money only comes at the end, and even to get the money costs money. You know, when they make a feature, if you didn't know, forgive me for mansplaining, but if you take your movie to the theater, you have to pay the theaters to play your movie, and that's still costing you money. So it's an expensive industry to get in, whatever aspect of it that you want to do, just keep that in mind. But the beauty about it is you also have to understand your value, especially when you start to offer your skills as a service other people to help them with their films and to do their things. Is always know how valuable you are as a filmmaker and not to underappreciate yourself just because it doesn't pay. You know, when you're working for yourself, but even in the films and the things that you do, there is value in that. So, and every time you think you've spent enough, you always have to spend something more. You know, when I started out, people always say budget this, budget that, but you tend to see that anytime you budget this, it affects the final quality of the image that you're putting out. So, for example, if you want to go to festivals, you know, if you have an iPhone image competing with an Arri Alexa, there's a very big discrepancy there. And no matter how much people tell you focus on story, people can still see that, you know, there's something iffy about your video. And that's just the nature and the beast of the game is, you know, it costs money to do anything, and you just have to keep focused on the work and keep focused on what you're doing, but always keep in mind that you will have to put out more money than you want to. I'd say the next thing is understanding that your locations, man, locations matter. They tell the aesthetic of your film. They tell the people where we are at in the story. Are we in modern times? Are we in olden times? And your access to locations also matters. You know, some people will let you film in their place, in their houses and stuff like that. Some people won't. You know, the thing is, it's always about your situation. Who do you know, and how much it's you. But always keep good relations with people, especially when they allow you to film in their space. Protect it. You know, people would say protect it like it's yours, but I'll go further and say protect it like you found it, because you might mistreat your own space, you know. So always bear that in mind. When you're filming outside, be respectful to the public. You know, people often say, oh, it's public space, I'm allowed to film there. You might be, but you don't want to disturb the public and create issues for yourself. You know, get out of the way when you can. Ask nicely for people to move off. Sometimes just go get the permit from the city to film, especially if you are in cities that film a lot, like the city I live in. This is a filming city, so everybody is quite aware that in order to film in the public, you need to have permits, and that can be an issue. People can call the police on you, people can do whatever. But you just have to be quite aware and, you know, be ready for whatever, and have, like I said in the beginning, you need to have the answers. I had to learn. People tend to say you can do whatever you like. You know, I think if you can dream it, you can achieve it. It's film. We make up the worlds. We come up with situations. The reality is you can't always do whatever you like. You can't move however you like, because a lot of times, well, whatever you want to do is determined by your budget. You know, you want to film in space, that's going to cost you more in production design. You want this actor, that's going to cost more if they're established or not, or whatever your relationship is. The spaces that you want, we work with daylight. People need to go home and sleep. You know, you can't film more than 12 hours. You know, you can't do everything that you like, but you can do things within reasonable doubt, within a frame, and you have to know the scope of the projects that you work on and the things that you can do. Once again, as I pointed out in the other one, is you have to be very respectful of your community wherever you're filming, but you also have to respect the people that you work with. You know, you can't, you know, we've seen the consequence of people doing whatever they like. and I'm glad there's an industry that's moved. But one of the main things that when you start working in this thing, you realize there is no control, there's no one there to monitor you, there's no human resources, there is no all of that. But as a community, there's a lot of unspoken rules. Number one being respect is a major thing in this industry and in this space. And even if you have money, it doesn't mean you're allowed to treat people like crap. You're allowed to mistreat people. You're allowed to, go to the extreme. There are limitations, and you have to accept that. And there will always be things that fall when you're trying to do something, when you're trying to make a project. It's your passion, it's your baby, it's something that you feel the world needs. But it doesn't mean that just because you want to do it, the world is ready for it. And you have to accept that and understand that you cannot always do what you like. If I was to ask a big food monster to come out of the budget constraints and stuff like that, it would be a thing. So yeah, keep that in mind. At the end of the day, the harsh reality is you have to define for yourself what is success and what is it that you want out of this industry, out of this life, and what it is you're willing to pay, how far you're willing to go. You know, we all have to define that for ourselves. Some would look at the numbers, some would look at the amount of films, some would look at the number of the audiences. I think views matter. But the ultimate truth is only you know what success is and what is important to you. I think when I got in this, I thought if you make a film that the entire world loves, then you are very successful. But there are successful filmmakers that don't have billion-dollar hits and that have defined their own way to success. And for myself, it's something I'm slowly defining and knowing what that means as I go through the journey of what this is, where life will take me and where I will go and where I'll choose to fight and the things that I'll fight for. But I think ultimately I've had to learn these things as I'm doing them, and that is only you know truly what success is. And another thing is you know when it's time to call it a day. Peace.